goodbye to all those lovely people in your life you're never going to see again. Bye. See you again. I miss you already. It's good to have you all here. My name is Tim. Once again, I'll be your guide today. With us today is driver Sharon. We also have a co-host of the world-famous studio tour. You may recognize this guy from The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon. It's Jimmy Fallon.
Oh, hey there. You made it. Welcome to the Universal Studio Tour. I'm Jimmy Fallon. I'll be making sure you get through this experience in one piece. You've got the very best guide.
Tim.
And the greatest driver, Sharon. You're the best. I love her. Even though
Tim
owes me $5. I know you guys are excited to get on the tour, but first, a few safety rules.
That's right, Jimmy. We do have a few safety rules. First and foremost, if you're in need of assistance of any kind, whether it's a medical emergency, drop something of value off the side of the vehicle, or if you're having any video or audio issues, please let me know by reaching down the grab of the red cord. Runs down the center of the ceiling of your car. That is the emergency cord. If you pull on that thing, we will stop, and I'll be back to help you as soon as it is safe for me to do so. Otherwise, for the remainder of the tour, just remain seated, arms and legs inside the vehicle. As a reminder, there's absolutely no smoking whatsoever on the tram. You do want to have your cameras ready, like I mentioned, but be aware there will be sudden tram movements, loud sounds, fire effects, and water effects throughout our experience. And for your safety and the safety of everyone around you, please do not use selfies to on board today. But enough of the rules. Let's get this thing started. Hey, out of curiosity, who's never been here before? This is their first tour ever. Got a first time over there. There, the whole bunch. That's awesome. Who's been here before, but it's been a long time since you've been here? Yeah, welcome back. Very cool. Very nice. Very nice. And who does this all the time? Yeah, we got a few regulars here. Whether it's your first time or your first time, it's always a fun time here at the studio tour. On our way down to the studio, I want you to look at these movie posters. You might recognize a few of these. They represent a small fraction of the thousands of movies that we made here. Like I said, you might recognize a few of them, whether it's Pillow Talk with Doris Day, Rock Hudson, or today's action blockbusters further on down the hill. None of these movies would have happened, though, if it weren't for one man, our founder, Carl Lindley. Little Uncle Carl, we call him. He's a gentleman popping up in the screen with bow tie. He founded Universal Pictures in 1912 on the East Coast, got tired of the rain and snow, and moved his company out west. But 110 years ago plus 2 days, we turned 110. Yes, we are 110 years old as a city. And we're still Universal City to this day. We have our own zip code, post office, fire station here to the right-hand side. Wave at those firefighters. Whoa, that's cool. What is that? Are you going scuba diving? I love you. We also have a sheriff station up on City Walk. We have medical facilities, daycare facilities. We have a gym I don't go to. We have 3 Starbucks plus a giant theme park. And the theme park's getting big, y'all. We're building a roller coaster over there. This is still a roller coaster, man. This thing's going to be massive. Fast and Furious Hollywood Drift opening up sometime next year. Even though we have a large, growing, and frankly loud theme park, we still make movies and television shows right next to it. And this is the only place on the earth where that happens. A lot of filming happens here in what we call the front lot. The front lot is where the headquarters of Universal Pictures is. It's also where the majority of our sound stages are. Sound stages are essentially just giant warehouses that we built to be pretty close to soundproof. You film in there, you're not going to hear the theme park. Unfortunately, you can hear my voice, not through the walls of the buildings, but actually through the ground. So if they're filming in any one of these sound stages, they'll turn on little red lights called big black lights. If I see one of those on next to the tram, I got to be off my microphone extremely quickly. So keep that in mind, especially this tram. This microphone is picking up everything. It's an extremely loud train. I gotta be careful. Now, the sound stages we see here next to the sound stage 9, 10, 11, they just finished season 2 of Ted on Peacock. Ted is a little teddy bear. I don't know if you know the movies he did. Something finally did with Mark Wahlberg. The television series on Peacock, our streaming service, is a prequel set in the 1990s. It is so fun. Stars one of my favorite actors of all time, Scott Grimes. He's worked with Seth MacFarlane a few times, including as Steve Smith in American Dad. So if you recognize the cartoon, you'll definitely recognize the voice of the actor in that show. They just finished season 2, like I mentioned, so you'll be able to watch season 1 right now and then see season 2 when it comes out later on this year. Keep in mind, I know it's a teddy bear, that show is not for kids. I mean, that is very, very mature but hilarious television show. Right next to it, these sound stages are being cleared out because a different show just finished their 4th season. It's called Hacks with Gene Smart. It's hilarious. It's on HBO Max. They just won a Golden Globe for Best Comedy and Gene Smart for Best Actress. Definitely worth checking out. They're moving their set out so another show can move in. Another Peacock original called Bel-Air. Bel-Air is a dramatic and mature take of the Fresh Prince. It is so cool. They got 3 seasons out right now. 4th and final is being made this summer. So definitely check that out. Sounds like 14 around the corner. A couple of my favorite movies have been made here. Maybe some of you might recognize. Back in 1982, a classic called The Thing with Kurt Russell was made. It's a super scary movie that takes place in the Antarctica. We don't want to go to Antarctica. We just filled that building full of air conditioning, merely cold. But 10 years later, Steven Spielberg did the exact opposite and built a tropical rainforest in there for Jurassic Park. A whole bunch of scenes actually filmed in there. Remember little Timmy who's stuck in the SUV in the tree and starts to break the branches of the escape? That was in there. Lex gets sneezed off by a Brachiosaurus. That was in there. Newman from Seinfeld, Nedry, I don't know how to pronounce that. He gets surrounded by a Dilophosaurus in there. And then Muldoon, clever girl, gets attacked by a bunch of raptors inside of there. All those scenes take place outside in the Costa Rican jungle. None of that stuff is real. Now take a look to the right. I gotta be careful because we've been filming Lutz over here to the right-hand side today. Lutz is an Apple Plus show that we produce with Maya Rudolph. They're working on season 3 today. Now, they typically film inside of Soundstage 17, which is the other one over here, so gotta be careful. If we come around the corner, I see that light out, I gotta be really, really quiet. In this area, we've been doing television for decades. Different Strokes, Facts of Life, Murder, She Wrote, Dragnet, Coach, Sabrina the Teenage Witch with Melissa Joan Hart, also filmed over here. Okay, we're good. Over to the right-hand side, Soundstage 18 and 19. We recently did a Netflix show with Ted Danson. It's called The Man on the Inside. It's hilarious. Gotta check that out. Debuted a few months back. These are also the same sound stages used by Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer, our Best Picture winner. Near the end of the movie when he goes to the White House, the Oval Office is actually a set inside that sound stage. Before we ever start filming though, we gotta do a lot of planning and preparation called pre-production. Pre-production also happens here in the lot, typically inside of smaller buildings like what's behind Ted over here to the left. These small bungalows though, they used to be dressing rooms for Hollywood's biggest stars. I'm talking people like Doris Day, Rock Hudson, Jimmy Stewart, Lucille Ball. That's because all actors up until around 1960 would sign a contract with just one studio at a time. So they were only making movies for and typically at Universal. So the dressing rooms didn't need to move. They were practically apartments that were here at the Universal lot. Today's movie stars, they're filming multiple movies at once sometimes all around the world, not just at one studio. So their dressing rooms need to be mobile and are typically trailers that follow them from one location to the next. That means these are now office spaces for some of the top writers, directors, and production companies in the business. Companies you definitely know, like Illumination Entertainment. They brought us Despicable Me, Minions, Single Up Pets, Sing, Mario Brothers movie. Mark Platt's office out here, he produced Wicked and Wicked for Good, the second one coming out in November. His office is visible to the left. You can see the little Wicked globe outside their window. But probably the single most famous office on the property is also visible. Number 5195, with the white awning over the door to the left-hand side, once belonged to Sir Alfred Hitchcock. The master of suspense, director of movies like Psycho, Rear Window, The Birds, among dozens of other movies you would recognize. He had that office for roughly 20 years in the latter part of his career, and, well, a lot of history on the inside of those walls. Different kind of history you're actually getting to see over here. We've built more and expanded more in the last 8 years than we did in the 80 prior to it. And it all began with the sound stages you see there to the left-hand side. First thing we filmed there was really cool. It was a live musical on NBC called Hairspray Live. It starred Matty Ballio, Jennifer Hudson, Ariana Grande. Since then, a lot is filmed in there. A couple of the seasons of America's Got Talent, Will and Grace, a revival 3 seasons. And currently 2 different shows use this building. You have Lopez versus Lopez on one half. That's George Lopez and his daughter Mayan. And on this half, a brand new medical comedy called St. Dennis Medical. It's on NBC, stars David Allen Greer and Wendy McLennan. But that's it for the front lot, y'all. We're going to spend the rest of our tour in the back lot. This is where we do the big stuff. Large exterior scenes for our productions. Now, you picked a really cool day to be here. These have been closed off for months, and we have full access to these Metropolitan Sets today. Yeah, these are some of the most widely used movie sets of all time, because you can change these to be any city in the world you want it to be. New York, Chicago, Los Angeles. It can be a different time period. It can be a different season. It's a lot easier to come out here than it is to film anywhere else. For instance, you might know Brownstone Street, with all the steps coming on down there to the right-hand side. Hi, that's a lot of people out there. Hi, Wendy. Now, Brownstone Street you might recognize as the home to Bruce and Bruce Almighty with Jim Carrey.
Race the dog!
I'm in the shower!
It's like that.
Yeah, see Jim Carrey running down those steps. You might also recognize it from Home Alone 2, Lost in New York with Macaulay Culkin. Remember when he goes to his uncle's brownstone apartment in New York City? He ends up crawling up to the roof, throws the bricks down at the sticky bandits. Yeah, it was all right there. So it's a great way to show you. You can change it to be what you need. Maybe you need to go to the past, or maybe your movie needs to go back to the future. Y'all, this is the road that Marty McFly got the car up to 88 and was struck by lightning and sent back to the future in 1985. Or 55, depending on how you're looking at it. But welcome to Courthouse Square, which was Hill Valley. And Back to the Future Part 1 and 2, Uncle J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd. I feel like I have to whisper in this microphone. Oh, look, a bunch of keys. The geese love it out here. Now, I want you to take a look over at that City Hall building, but then I want you to look back up at your screens, and you'll see it looks a little bit different. That's on purpose. Because in 1985, when this movie came out, it became one of the most recognized movie sets of all time, and no one wanted to make a movie here anymore. That's bad, right? We want to be able to reuse this over and over again. We didn't tear the clock tower down. We built another face in front of it. The columns and all the original clock towers still exist, just on the other side of the bricks that we see there. And that's pretty much what all the clock tower is as well. It's just a face. Most of these buildings have no interior. They're just the fronts and the sides of the buildings. If you were to walk inside the clock tower, you know what you would see? Nothing. It doesn't have a roof, doesn't even have a back half. It is literally the left, front, and right-hand side of the building. Our imagination just fills in the rest. Now, if you like Back to the Future like me, you got to check out a brand new event that we're doing called Fan Fest Nights. It is a brand new event that they didn't load up any of my media for. Let's see if I can have it on here. There we go. Fan Fest Nights. We're doing it in April and May this year. There's more detailed information available on our website, but it includes things like Back to the Future, Star Trek, and even Dungeons and Dragons. Be sure to check that out. Now, Hill Valley, California is a small Southern California town, but sometimes you need the Big Apple. Well, luckily, we got a lot larger city streets around here. Like I said, it's a lot easier to film out here than it is to film in New York City. Just ask Jimmy Fallon. He does the Tonight Show on the real Big Apple.
Hey everyone, welcome to New York! I got my start right here in New York on Saturday Night Live. This is actually my old neighborhood. What's that above me over there? That old woman. Tough lady. Who's my favorite hot dog guy? Hey buddy, how's it going? Remember me? No. Just like old times. Gotta love New York City. I'm walking here! I'm walking here! It's cool guys. I was just, just walking there. So it's not exactly New York, but a lot of times when you see New York in the movies, it was shot right here on the Universal Metro sets. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. Even if you make it here on the Universal lot.
And y'all, there have been thousands of movies, television shows, commercials, and music videos that film out here. Some of the biggest action movies of all time will utilize these. A couple of my favorite superheroes have been there. Captain America, the First Avenger with Chris Evans. Now I'm going to spoil part of that movie, but it came in like 15 years ago, so leave it with that. When Steve Rogers, when he's a little itty bitty guy, is chosen to become the super soldier for the United States, they take him to a secret basement lab in Brooklyn. Disney didn't build that in a basement of any building, right? That was a set they built inside of a soundstage, similar to the ones that we saw, except it was all the way over in the United Kingdom. Yeah, most of the movie filmed overseas. It doesn't matter where you film. If you tell us we're in New York City, we're going to believe you, right? As soon as he becomes a super soldier, Hydra assassin blows up the lab, steals the serum, exits out into the streets. Now, it takes place in the 1940s. You can't really film in New York City. It doesn't look like the 1940s anymore, right? But you can film in other locations around the Earth. For instance, the early chase scenes, when he's chasing after him, barefoot, running down the road, kind of getting the feel for his new body and his new powers, running into the city streets, a lot of that actually filmed in Liverpool. Yeah, a city over the UK because, well, the buildings look like they belong in 1940s New York. But there's one specific scene that filmed out here. He's running down the street. He's literally leaping from car to car, getting closer to the Hydra assassin who's in a stolen taxi cab. That all filmed right down here. For a few reasons. One, Chris Evans, while he's extremely athletic and extremely talented, cannot run 30 miles an hour down the street barefoot. So what they have to do is they have to put in a rigging system, which is pretty much just a giant set of rails and a bunch of ropes attached to Chris Evans, right? They're pulling him down the road. They can use these streets because you can have anchor points and utilize any which way that you want and know that it's going to be safe. Not only that, you can change these buildings, right? Physically, they're not made of what they look like. All the brick and stone out here is a thin sheet of plastic and fiberglass. You want to change it, you can change it, you can do it extremely easily. Or you can do what they did. There's one, I think car 3 and 4, you might be, or probably just car 4 at this point. There's a big blue glass building on our New York street that does not belong in the 1940s, so they just covered it with a giant tarp, a green tarp, and they change it digitally, so that way it just blends into the background. Not only that, they use the same technology to race all those ropes to make it seem as if Chris Evans or Steve Rogers is jumping himself actually through all those different things. Not only that, he's not barefoot. It's kind of dangerous, right? You don't want your main actor to stub a toe or break an ankle. He's actually wearing giant rubber boots that look like bare feet. And it's the grossest thing I've ever seen him play. So they use the digital technology, the same ones that they used to change the buildings, to make his feet now look so weird, right? And that's the kind of stuff you can do on here. He's not the only superhero though. Even before that, Spider-Man 2, when Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst filmed out here. They didn't do an action sequence out here, though. They actually had MJ's Broadway debut out here. right? Because you don't want to close down a real Broadway theater for, you know, maybe a scene that's only going to be in the movie for a few minutes. You would have to close that Broadway theater for weeks. It takes a long time just to film a little bit of a movie. So she's made it big. She's in The Importance of Being Earnest. Peter shows up like 3 hours late because he's a horrible boyfriend. And he has to wait for all the hundreds of people to come out of the theater. Well, what if I told you the theater is that door, and on the other side of that door is the street? So that's how they fit hundreds of people inside the theater. They're all just hanging out in this parking lot, and they're just pouring through that one door. Or they're just going around the corner, going right back in the building over and over and over again. If you look in the background, you're going to see a lot of the same people pop up, right? That's why these are used. You can use people, make it seem realistic, and do whatever you want to. But even before that, Batman was out here. Yes, this was a frozen over Gotham City in Batman and Robin. Y'all remember that one? Probably not. That is the one with George Clooney playing Batman. Arnold Schwarzenegger plays Dr. Freeze. He says all those horrible ice puns like, all right, everyone, chill. And he freezes everyone. They changed this to look like a frozen over Gotham City, and they froze it by just hanging sheets of plastic over everything. Now, back in the 1990s, you can get away with a lot of, you know, maybe not a lot of detail. These days, we try to make these as HD ready as possible. Even our cell phones have better quality than most of our professional cameras did back in the 1990s and 80s. But one of my personal favorite Academy Award-winning movies filmed out here called The Sting with Robert Redford and Paul Newman. They turned this in 1920 Chicago. They built the giant train line over our the elevated train line that you see in that city right down our New York Street. And just a few decades later, John Landis did the same thing for this movie, The Blues Brothers. Take a look.
When the Pinto fell and you saw it land and make this big hole in the street, that was on the back lot. We dropped it from a crane. You dig like that in Chicago, you're not a good idea.
When people ask me all of the movies I've ever done, what was the most satisfying, the most fun, I've got to say Blues Brothers. We got to sing, we got to dance, got to drive, train with the best stunt people in the world, and got to be a right. So it was a good piece of work.
Danny broke down America's death because Tristan walked into anybody's house.
During the shooting of the movie, John was missing, we couldn't find him.
He saw a light on in his one house in Backlot.
He said, sir, we're doing a movie down here, we're looking for one of our actors. Oh, John, yeah, he's on my couch. He came in, he had a snack a couple hours ago, he's sleeping. He was America's guy, he literally not.
Now, you might recognize Mr. John Landis, but I'm hoping you recognize this next Academy Award-winning director. I'm talking about Peter Jackson, who not only made the movie King Kong for Universal, he helped us create the attraction we're about to see. Here he is to tell us about King Kong 360 3D.
It's the original King Kong that played saw that movie on TV when I was about 8 or 9. I wanted to become a filmmaker. I like films that just take you away from your real life and sweep you up into the edge. King Kong literally does it. I mean, you're on board the ship, you're sailing to a lost island, you're encountering monsters and creatures from prehistoric times.
Well, one time we did.
I was thrilled when you were right on the back of this line. It's great to have you along for the ride. Now we have created this 3D immersive experience, so you're going to have to have your glasses ready. Don't put them on yet, but just have them in your hand because we're about to return to Sky.
Yeah, we are in for an adventure, y'all. Please remain seated, arms, legs, and vehicle hold on tight to your personal belongings, and no flash photography. Photography is fine, just a flash. Flash doesn't help your photos, it just blinds every single person around you. We're going to wait to see if we're going to be heading into this dark kingdom tunnel. In the meantime, sit back, relax, and listen to a little bit more about King Kong.
We really put a lot of thought into the character and personality. He's so much more than a monster. In fact, he's not a monster. You know, he is an incredibly majestic, ancient creature. He's a force of nature. He's old, he's wise, he's proud, he's fierce, and obviously he has a heart. The most important feature with Kong are his eyes. Kong's eyes are wonderfully expressive. They're full of emotion. His eyes are his personality. He's had an enormous number of encounters with his foes, the T-Rexes and the various dinosaurs on Skull Island, so he's been beaten up, scarred, chewed up, spat out by these dinosaurs at various times, and he wears the scars of a lot of ancient battles. The Universal Tram is winding its way through a very rough, narrow trail in Skull Island, allowing the visitors a little sneak peek at some of the wildlife in Skull Island. In a sense, this is like a mini sequel, a mini continuation. We are just taking the Kong and Skull Island and the dinosaurs that we established in our feature film, and this is another day, another incident on Skull Island, using the creatures and the character of personality of Kong as he appeared in the movie.
Now I'm going to pause it right here on Kong. Now King Kong in the Peter Jackson movie is actually played by an actor. The actor's name is Andy Serkis. He is well known for his performance and motion capture performances in movies like King Kong. He worked with Peter Jackson in the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit movies as the creature Gollum. He did an amazing job at that. He also went on to do Supreme Leader Snoke in these recent Star Wars sequels. He also played a different monkey, Caesar, in Planet of the Apes, the more recent the trilogy that they have done. What they'll do is they will watch Andy Serkis with a camera, but they are tracking his motion. He is wearing a suit that has a bunch of sensors all over it, so every single movement that he makes of his arms and legs creates a digital skeleton, if you will, that the visual effects artist can animate King Kong. Not only that, all of King Kong's facial animations are also Andy Serkis. He's wearing a camera that is extremely close to his face, like really close. And then what they'll do is they will track all of the motion of his eyebrows, his cheeks, his lips to give King Kong the exact look of what they are doing. Andy Serkis also plays a role, live action role, in the King Kong movie. He's one of the film crew that unfortunately gets eaten by like a giant slug. He's also what's the Batman's butler's name? Alfred in the recent Batman movie with Robert Pattinson. He is also Ulysses Claw in the Black Panther movie. So the man knows, he also directed the recent Venom movies. The man knows how to perform, he knows how to direct, he knows how to write. They've done an absolutely amazing job. Now, visual effects like what the folks over at Weta Digital did to create King Kong have allowed us to create types of characters that we wouldn't otherwise be able to do with things like hair and makeup. Let's see the home of King Kong, Skull Island.
Okay, last
intense 3D experiences on the planet. Is that cool or is that cool? That's pretty cool. Alright. Thanks for your patience on that. You can go ahead and take off your reading glasses now. We're not going to use it for the rest of the tour. I'll let you know what to do if you want to back. That epic battle was produced by director Peter Jackson and created by that company I mentioned, Wet and Digital. They have now changed their name to Wet Effects, but they still do the amazing visual effects work that they've always done. They've won 7 Academy Awards for visual effects on the work of the movies King Kong, Lord of the Rings trilogy, Disney's Jungle Book, and Avatar The Way of Water. The attraction we just saw is massive, by the way. It's projected on screens that are roughly 3 times as large as IMAX screens on either side of the tram. That's 40 feet tall, 180 feet long. All of that hard work and technology combined to bring Skull Island and King Kong to life.
With a bunch of great studios for the audience is in the middle of the ride. They're looking in all directions. There's creatures coming at them. They're seeing Kong from this side and the T-Rexes from the other side. Working on a movie, we always know what all of these straight ahead of the shot that we're working on. Here you have to take into account that people are looking in all directions. Also, one of the things about this live room is the way they're working on. There's no cuts. Because it's one giant shot, this tram that's driving along through Skull Island is where the camera's from. The frame represents where the screen is 10 meters away. We're really creating about 50 minutes of a feature film. That amount of visual information, that number of pixels, and presenting them to the audience. It's a hell of a ride.
Now, obviously, King Kong 363D is probably unfathomable to the audiences of people who saw King Kong in its first appearance back in 1933. But even that was pretty technologically advanced at the time because computers weren't around. Everything you see in the original King Kong from RKO Studios was physically in front of the camera, right? King Kong was not a guy in an ape suit either. It was an 18-inch tall puppet. And they would take a picture of him and move him, and take another picture and move him, take another picture and move him 24 times for just 1 second of a move. It takes a long time to do. But RKO did King Kong in 1933 because it's something we were doing at the same time. The monster movies. Take a look to the right. This massive mural was all done by one man, Tristan Eaton. Tristan Eaton is a Los Angeles native artist who's now worked all over the globe and has a permanent showing in the Museum of Modern Art. He did that monster mural all himself with nothing but spray paint. Now, the reason why we have that commission is not only because it's a phenomenal piece of art, but it's because everything we see in the studio now really only exists because of those successful monster movies during the Great Depression. Because of their success, we didn't have to sell an acre of our property. It allows us today to expand more. For instance, we have newer sound stages over there to the left-hand side. You might recognize the logo on sound stage 30 and 31 as The Voice on NBC.
Hey, what's up, Studio Tour? It's Kelsey Ballerini.
And I am John Legend from The Voice. Now, we shoot our show right here in Stage 31, one of the newest stages on the lot.
These state-of-the-art sound stages allow us to bring our show to life, from the blinds to the lives and everything in between.
Everyone's talking about the new voice coaches, even the new voice coaches.
You see that gorgeous face in here? We missed you, man!
Go on. I'm here to put these boys in their place.
That was a big baby. So that's how it's gonna be.
The Voice, Monday on NBC and Peacock.
So you can actually see an episode of The Voice tonight, and if you don't catch it tonight, you can see it tomorrow on Peacock. Now, one of the former coaches of The Voice, Reba McEntire, she does another show over there called Happy's Place. It's their sitcom on NBC. Now, like Kelsey and John were saying, those are some of the newest stages. They're not the newest stuff. We got 8 more further back in the studio. That's why we're working on 2 different shows. We have The Burbs. It's a new show on the Peacock starring Keke Palmer. I'll actually tell you a little bit more about that later on. We also have a new show on NBC that just debuted a few weeks ago called Suits LA. It's a spinoff of the original Suits. It's really, really cool. Rather than take you up to those sound stages, though, Sharon's going to take us through Little Europe. Now, Little Europe is some of the most historic movie sets of all time. It's very cool that we have access to these today. These are also quite old. They date back to the silent film era. About 101 years ago, there was a silent movie made out here called The Hunchback of Notre Dame with Lon Chaney Sr. It's considered to be one of the most impressive silent movies ever. They had a giant Notre Dame cathedral. They built the catacombs over the river, by the way, which is like 100 yards behind us. It was a massive set to be doing. In the late 1920s, around 1929, we did a movie out here called All Quiet on the Western Front, which won us our first ever Academy Award for Best Picture, and the third of the Academy Awards ever held. So we've been in the game a long time. This is also where we did those iconic monster movies, beginning in 1931 with Dracula with Bela Lugosi. But I can already tell, some of you are recognizing this area not as Europe, but as the good place in the good place, with Ted Danson and Tristan and Bell.
You, Eleanor Shellstrom, are dead.
This location, afterlife, I have never
I've ever seen. Yes.
You're in the good place.
I'm not supposed to be here. I can't risk going to the bad place.
Maybe it's not all that bad. What is the bad place like?
Well, it doesn't sound awesome.
Okay, so here is my honest opinion of The Good Place. Please understand, this is an opinion. Okay, you don't need to share my opinion. I just got a microphone, so you're gonna listen to my opinion. Okay. The Good Place is one of the greatest shows ever made. It's so good. It's so good. Any other fans of The Good Place on board? One or two scattered throughout. Here's what I want to tell you. Even if you don't stick with the show, if it's not your type of show, it's no big deal. It's not my show. I don't care. I want you to go home, turn on Netflix, and watch the first 10 minutes of the first episode, right? Because you'll see Little Europe almost immediately. It'll be cool to see a location on the studio tour, right? But the more you watch the show, it's hilarious, it's smart, you're gonna binge watch 4 seasons, you're gonna sob, and then you're gonna rewatch it. And like I said, it's only 4 seasons, and it wasn't canceled either. They finished the show. They wrote an ending all the way from the beginning, and they refused to make any more than that. It's definitely worth checking out. It's created by Michael Schur. He also created Parks and Rec, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, writer, producer for The Office. He brought everyone back to The Good Place and did A Man of the Inside, also at Ted Danson. I encourage you to watch both of those.
I want those.
The more you watch The Good Place, you'll also see other locations pop up, like the Metropolitan Sets, some of the residential streets. You're never going to see this set, though. This is a very particular set that has been inside the soundstage for about 35 years. You'll notice we're driving into it, so please remain seated, arms and legs to the vehicle. It is built to be a subway station. You can film in real subway stations, but they're kind of expensive and relatively dangerous. This is also unique because it has a street set above us, so you can do what is called a follow shot. Follow your actor in the street, running down the stairs, getting onto the trains. It was built in here about 35 years ago, and they used our trams as the train for the movie that used it. It was a perfect addition to the tour, so that's exactly what we did. Now listen. Okay, we've been having a lot of tremors lately. I've been kind of expecting a larger... Yeah, okay. Please remain seated, arms and legs in the vehicle. Hold on tight to your personal belongings. Earthquakes only last a few seconds, but we gotta swing the door. Everything's under control. It's over there. That'd be the second floor coming down. Okay. Everyone, trip up. Survived earthquake, the big one. I think you're local. You're still a city. Now, what we just saw right there is a great example of a practical effect, right? You can do action sequences with the computer, like we saw with King Kong, but sometimes you want to do stuff for real, in front of the camera, or practically. Now, you can crash real trains and blow up buildings, but you can't be anywhere near it. The whole reason why we're able to be so close to it is it's also a mechanical effect. It's a machine, so we know where the danger ends. We can be really close to the action, and we can set it back up as if it never happened. Do take 2, take 3, take 3005. Just one time's enough. Now, y'all, we're roughly halfway done with our tour at this point. This is just a reminder. If you need my assistance, remember that red emergency cord hanging above your head. Give that thing a pull. I'll be back to help you. After an earthquake, I think the best thing for us to do is just take a break, catch our breath, and I know the perfect place to do it. We're going to head to the nice, quiet beach of Amity Island. Now, I know it's quiet because the beach is closed because of the shark they found, but they caught the shark. It's hanging up right there. Plus, I know the guy in charge. It's my buddy George. He's going to open it up for us. I believe it's supposed to open up here at 4. We're way too early. It's no big deal. Ooh. Change plans. Stay in the tram. That's a big shark out there. Does anyone see George? It's not his cool. That's not great. George. George? George? You okay? He's fine.
Sharky's dead.
Okay, we're just gonna pull forward and park here in Cindy's gasoline.
Yeah.
Okay, did it just take the whole dock? I think it's huge. Okay, don't touch the gasoline that's spraying back there. Don't touch that. Ooh. My hands are getting cold. We're just gonna hang out here first. Oh, we gotta leave. Sorry, right now. Congratulations, everyone. You just survived Bruce the Shark. Get all Bruce. Hey, I'm gonna hang out the rail. Don't tell my boss. Hopefully the microphone doesn't freak out. It's so loud. Hey, I got a question for y'all. If you know the answer, just yell at me. I'll hear it. What kind of shark is that? What is it?
Great white.
Great white.
Great white.
It's plastic shark. It's plastic. It's a plastic one. Why do we use a plastic one and not a real one? Well, good luck training a real one. There is a real great white shark scene in Jaws, but it's just for when it's swimming through the ocean, for like one scene. You can film nature, you just can't really control nature, predict what it's gonna do. If you need that, you gotta build it, right? Build a mechanical shark, create the ocean, create the weather, right? One of the reasons why filming happens more in Southern California is we have more sunshine than pretty much anywhere else in the United States. It's a lot easier to film in sun and create weather like rain, sleet, snow, or Sharknado. And we're gonna show you how we do that down the bottom of the hill here in Old Mexico. Our set today is going to be slightly different than what you would find for a movie or television show, though. The biggest difference is sound. The only sound you want to hear on set is the actor's voice. You've probably heard the term quiet on set. That's how they're only recording the actor. All of the other sounds you hear in the movie is actually a sound effect being added in after the fact. Even their footsteps. You're not hearing the actor's footsteps. You're hearing some guy with shoes on his hands in front of a microphone like 4 months later. But today, since there's no actors out here, we don't need to be quiet, and we have sound effects like thunder. The lighting you see is a big strobe light. It might be kind of difficult to see, but now's a perfect time to film because there's no direct shadows with this sunlight that we have. Here's the rain, though. And just like that, you can have a rainy day. We get the rain by using a super high-tech, sophisticated system called sprinklers. That's all it is. As long as the sprinklers are above the camera seats, pointed slightly upwards, it'll fall down pretty naturally. It also only needs to be in front of your camera. It doesn't need to be anywhere else. But I want to fill in all the gaps. I'm going to turn on all the sprinklers. We typically don't do this, but I like y'all. Sounds fun. That didn't do anything. Where's all the water? It's every single one of them. Weird. Okay. Well, Sharon, I flooded. Okay, just hold it around. Don't worry, about 10,000 gallons of water released from giant tanks at the top of the hill. You saw that in this scene in the movie Big Fat Liar. It falls Giamatti, Manda Vines, and Frankie Venus. You can't outrun the wall, kid! You also saw the flood feature a couple of music videos. Songs like Vamos by Enrique Iglesias and Judas, both featured the flood. Judas by Lady Gaga. This part of Old Mexico was Mexico and Nacho Libre, starring Jack Black. It's also the pirate city of Tortuga and Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. A great example of how some of our favorite movies, even the big franchises from other studios, might use the same exact set time and time again. They just change it so much you don't recognize it. This area has actually been seen in more movies than any other spot on Earth. These old Western sets are called 6 points, and they date back almost 110 years at this point. During the silent film era, when these were built, we would make a movie in every single one of the streets at the same time. Because if you could, they were silent. As long as you don't turn your camera, see a different movie video, you were good to go. But you might recognize this from a more recent Quentin Tarantino movie called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with Leonardo DiCaprio. The movie takes place in Hollywood in 1969, and Leonardo DiCaprio's character of Rick Dalton is an actor. And for about 45 minutes of that movie, Rick is in a studio starring in a Western. And that was all right here. It looks so cool. I encourage you to check it out. Just keep in mind, Tarantino, it's extremely rated R. There's a much more family-friendly movie that was made out here, though, called Saving Mr. Banks with Colin Farrell and Tom Hanks. That's a Disney movie about them making Mary Poppins. Tom Hanks plays Walt Disney. The flashback sequences, when they follow the author of Mary Poppins' life when she's a small girl. She's growing up in a small town in turn-of-the-century Australia, and her father, played by Colin Farrell, is fired from a bank, which is one of these buildings out here. But don't get me wrong, some of the biggest Western stars have also made movies out here. John Wayne, Clint Eastwood, Audie Murphy, Jimmy Stewart, they all made Westerns out here at some point in their career. Now, Jimmy Stewart's name has popped up a few times on the tour already. He had a bungalow there in the front lot. Filmed movies there. He has this road named after him. We spent the good part of the tour already driving on James Stewart Avenue. The rest of our tour, though, we're going to be traveling up the longest road at Universal, Steven Spielberg Drive. Of course, we're going to name our longest road ever, Steven Spielberg. The man's had one of the most prolific movie careers of all time, and it began here at Universal even before he was making movies. He was doing small projects like made-for-TV movies, commercials, nighttime television, kind of honing his craft before he ever made the big blockbusters that we know him for today. But it was Jaws that really set him on that path. And it was also Jaws that began his relationship with us here at the studio tour. Even before he was a filmmaker, he was a fan of the studio tour. He was part of the first people to be on our studio tour 60-plus years ago, riding around the studio. Little did he know that 10 years later he'd be making a movie that we would add to the studio tour with the Jaws attraction. It was the Steven Spielberg, the director himself, worked with the studio tour to get the Jaws attraction added less than a year after his movie came out.
The Jaws ride was almost the inevitable result of the size of the box office when Jaws first opened in June of 1975. And that was really the first time I ever got involved in the creation of a ride. It was a great honor to be invited into a creative circle of tremendous designers at Universal that were trying to figure out how to replicate what the movie had done to audiences in a real way by building a physical shark that would come out of the water and terrify tourists as they were sitting in the tram.
George is about to get eaten again.
Think about the Jaws ride. It is exactly as it was from the time it was first placed on Universal lot. There have been tweaks, of course, over the years, but it is essentially what the designers and myself all envisioned and created. I'm done bashing the shark. Thank you, Jaws, for everything you've done for me. But I will say, consistently, the shark did work much better on the tour than it did in the Atlantic Ocean in 1970.
That being said, Jaws filmed entirely in the ocean and in Martha's Vineyard, real neighborhoods. But you can film in real neighborhoods, but it's kind of expensive and very, very logistically difficult. So we have our own residential streets here in the Backlot, including Colonial Street, which was Wisteria Lane for ABC's Desperate Housewives, and it's where Keke Palmer is filming her new Peacock show, The Burbs. It might sound familiar because of the Tom Hanks Carrie Fisher movie, The Same Name, which filmed on the same exact road back in 1989. Now, even though Steven Spielberg didn't film Jaws here, he's tried to film every single movie since here at the Universal lot. He loves Universal, and his love for Universal dates back more than 60 years at this point.
My entire career began with my relationship with Universal Studios just as a high school kid on a tour bus. Remember, in those days, there weren't trams, there were buses called the Gray Line Tour Bus. And I was so excited and thrilled to be on the lot. It was my first time ever on a movie studio lot. And during a bathroom break, I hid in the bathroom. When everybody left to get back on the bus, I waited another 15 minutes until I'm sure the bus left. And then I had the entire lot to myself that day. And in those days, movie lots were so crowded because all movies were made on film lots. Today they're made all over the world, on locations, but most of it was focused in those days, in the 60s, on the film lots. So nobody noticed me when I was going around from soundstage to soundstage, and I really felt, in my own young way, I owned the lot and had the most amazing day of my life.
And what an absolutely amazing start to his career. Now, some of these Steven Spielberg producer-directed movies I've filmed here also have some of the most amazing picture cars ever seen. A picture car is any vehicle you see in a movie or television show. A few connected to Steven Spielberg include Jurassic World and Jurassic Park. You'll see it at the top of the hill to the left-hand side, and Back to the Future there to the right. We're going to be surrounded by Universal picture cars, so make sure you're getting pictures on both sides of the vehicle. As you get your first pictures, I just want to let you all know we got about 15 minutes left of our tour from this point. So once again, a reminder, if you need my assistance, remember the red emergency board hanging above your head. I love the Flintstones to the left. That's what John Goodman and Rick Moranis. And beyond that, a franchise based off of vehicles, you have Fast and Furious. We got 11 Fast and Furious movies made so far, including the spin-off Hobbs and Shaw. We're probably going to make 85 more. Vin Diesel's going to be like 98 years old in a wheelchair with NOS on it making these movies. I also love Transformers. We have some of the ones out here Bumblebee and Blockade from that hit franchise. Now there's another car around the corner. It doesn't look as cool as Bumblebee, but it's pretty important. It belongs to a lady named Marion. She was reported missing a few days ago. She was last seen checking into room number 1 of the Bates Motel. Yeah, welcome to the iconic Bates Motel in Mother's House from Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. Sharon, why is your trunk open? Well, maybe she's packing up. Maybe she came back. That's good. Like I said, she hasn't been seen for a few days, so we're kind of worried something might have happened. Now that... Is that normal? What's going on? What's it doing? Sorry, that's Norman Bates. Runs a motel, lives up in the house of his mom. What's he doing with their car? Did he even look up at us? I don't think he looked up. Okay. No! I don't think he knows me well enough. This is very awkward. Oh, hi. Yeah, we've been here for a while. Sharon took out a knife. Go. Oh no. Sharon's walking towards a train. Oh, it's getting really close. Let's go faster. Let's go faster. Oh no. Ooh, that was a close one. All right. You all agree we were never there, right? We were never there. We did not see him carrying a body out of the hotel. You did not see Norman carrying a body. You're waving at him. You're not doing me any favors. If you want to wave at somebody, wave at Mother. Mother lives here in the original Psycho house. She's been here for about 65 years. She's usually upstairs in her bedroom window looking down over her baby boy. If you see her up there, give her a wave, a smile, some moisturizer. Gross. Now, the Psycho House is considered to be one of the most iconic movie sets ever constructed, but in its backyard, it also happens to be one of the largest movie sets ever constructed. This is the massive 747 grass site from Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds, a Paramount picture starring Tom Cruise, Dakota Fanning, and Justin Chatwin. Y'all, of all the fake stuff we've seen today, buildings made out of plastic, sharks made out of plastic, that is a real 747. And it was completely destroyed on purpose by the crew just for this set. Here to tell us a little bit more about the concept behind it is Steven Spielberg and the movie's production designer, Rick Carter.
The airplane crash site set is a perfect example of a set that is all designed around the vision of Spielberg.
He first said, to sit down and talk about War of the World, I thought, what if the 747 goes on right in a good neighborhood? Because it's just something you don't see.
By a show of hands, who has seen War of the Worlds before? Raise your hand. Okay, a few of us. For those of you who have seen this movie, I've got another question for you in a few seconds.
Robbie, get in.
Who else hates Robbie? I hate Robbie so much. Your dad is keeping you alive, kid, and I'm the age. Get in the van. Now, beyond what we just saw, there's only another 2.5 minutes of footage available for this set. That's it. That's all you see this set in the movie. Because Steven Spielberg knows it's not how long you see something that matters, it's what you see and what it does in your mind. And that can set up a lot, right? He can show us a fraction of a second of a shark and it's going to be terrifying. Or he can not even show us the T-Rex. He can have us hear it or see the water jiggling on the dash and we're already terrified. There's a similar style of filmmaking coming from Jordan Peele. All of his movies filled with that tension and suspense. Here he is to tell us about the set we're visiting from his third movie, Nope.
Movie magic only happens when a team of collaborators, often in the hundreds, work together to take an impossible mission and bring it to life. This is Jupiter's Planet, a nostalgic, small-time Southern California amusement park owned by former child star Ricky Juke Park. Over there, look into the winking well and have your picture taken just like the kids in that old 90s movie Kid Show. That's what this whole place is loosely based on. Remember that one? No? What? A little further down, you can see the brand new Star Lasso experience. Built to showcase an unbelievable new live show. It's not looking so live. Anyway, behind this Hollywood fantasy, in worldwide frontier town, lies a sinister secret. It is smack dab in the center of the UFO hotspot.
What was
Welcome to the world.
What?
Of no.
Yo, we're like losing power right now. Just remain seated. Yeah, nope. Getting out of there. If you haven't seen Nope, you gotta watch it. Watch all three of Jordan Peele's movies. He's done Get Out, Us, and Nope. So far, the Universal. Each is a unique, different kind of horror thriller, all wrapped around their own specific theme. They're not connected to each other, so you can watch any order. I'm very excited to see what else he does. But you know what Jordan Peele did before he was a writer, director, and producer of modern horror movies? He was a comedian, a comic actor, and you might recognize one of his shows, Key and Peele, with Keegan-Michael Key. A lot of their sketches they actually did here on the Universal Studios lot. But you know what he was even before that? He was in your seat. He took the studio tour so much as a kid. He was a fan of the studio tour, and he got to experience a lot of the same stuff that we got to experience today. Whether it was going through Amity Island, you know, getting shaken around by an earthquake, or getting wet on a flash flood. Little did he know when he was, you know, screaming at a plastic shark named Bruce, that he would later go on to write, direct, and produce a movie for and at Universal called Get Out, and he would win an Academy Award for it, Best Original Screenplay. So here's what I'm gonna say. One of you here on the tram, young or old, are going to come back one day and make your own movie, maybe even win an Academy Award. And when that happens, I'm going to say when, not if. When that happens, I want you to walk up on that stage, be proud of the work that you've done. Think of every single thing that happened along the way when you hold that giant, heavy golden statue. I want you to thank your family, your friends, your parents, your agents, your publicity, whatever. And I want you to think all the way back to this moment right now. And remember your tour guide, Tim. I'm joking. I don't care what you do. But I do hope that you come back here one day, whether it is to make a movie, to write a movie, to direct a movie, to watch a movie, or to ride the movies. It'll always be great to have you back here at Universal Studios and to have you on my tram once again. That is going to conclude our movie studio tour, however, and we're going to get to go back to the theme park once more. And a special thanks to our annual pass holders on board. It's always nice seeing familiar faces here in the tram. If you want to become an annual pass holder today, it's super simple. Take your ticket up to the Universal box office, big tall tower in the center of the park next to Starbucks. They'll show you how you can extend your ticket into an annual pass and be able to come back again and again. If you're interested in watching any of the movies from Universal that I talked about, you want to go to a website called uphe.com, stands for Universal Pictures Home Entertainment. Pretty much an online directory. You type in what you're looking for, points in the right direction. If you haven't already, I also encourage you to download the Universal Hollywood app. It helps out a lot in the theme park. Confirms that we're open tonight until 7. Gives you all the remaining show times for Waterworld, wait times with rides, attractions, mobile food ordering on it, plus a whole lot more. If you do have any questions, though, don't hesitate to come up and find me. I'll be available once we get to the tram. Once again, my name is Tim. I live like this. Come on over. I'd love to chat with you. Whether it's about the movie studio, the theme park, you just want to say hello, I'd love to chat with anybody here at the tram. We're going to wait for our parking space to open up here in just a few moments. In the meantime, to sit back, relax, we'll play some tunes for Universal movies as we head back into the theme park.
Bring the noise. What do you got here? Watch me for the changes and try to keep up with it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. You make me wanna.
Everyone, here in just a moment, once we come to a full and complete stop on our Studio Plaza area, one of our studio tour ambassadors will be able to open up the door for us. Until then, remain seated. Once the doors open, though, watch your step as you exit on down. Make sure you have all of your personal belongings gathered up. Those 3D glasses are going to go in specific recycling bins that are labeled for just 3D glasses. But on behalf of our driver Sharon, myself, and tour guide Tim, and everyone here at the studio tour, we hope you enjoyed your behind-the-scenes movie-making experience, and hope you enjoyed the rest of your day here at Universal Studios Hollywood. As we say in the movies, though, that's a wrap.